All right, here we are with another amazing experience, a very special amazing experience. Today in the studio, we have have my buddy Uriah Belletto. He's a QA tester at Bungie, also a former QA tester at Gearbox. Thank you very much, Uriah, for coming on the show.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Appreciate
No
it,
problem.
man.
I mean, this is kind of like a studio, right? Like, it's nice enough, yeah.
Nice enough.
It's got the couch, it's got the chairs, it's got the table, right?
Yeah, it's like we pretty much got everything we need. Look at the beautiful lighting.
Yeah, ring light, actual ring light. Like, yeah, I mean, it's good.
Oh man, so man, like, let me ask you, well, but first off, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a QA tester at Bungie. I started in the industry at Gearbox. Before then, I was a delivery driver for like a ton of years, and then I worked at like a couple of startups and mobile studios, kind of in between Gearbox and Bungie. While I was trying to figure out, like, did I want to stay games QA? Did I want to do something else? Right? Like, there's a lot of pros and cons to being in and out of games QA. But I'm at Bungie now. It's been a lot of fun. I've been there for 2 years. So I'm, back down from Seattle for like a week, just kind of chilling. Which, thank goodness I did it right now, because like it's a foot of snow right there. Like it is like locked down. Like the city's locked down. Like I got out on my flight. It was 3 hours to get through security. Like it was insane trying to get out here.
3 hours?
Yeah, and it was supposed to snow on the Sunday I flew out, so it was like I got that last flight out, or that was it. Like I was not gonna be able to come out here. So it was crazy. Like I had to change flights. I had a flight at noon. I got at the airport, or I had a flight out at like 12:55. I got in at 10, and I couldn't make it through security in time. Like I had to bail, go get a ticket change, and then I finally got through, and I flew out at 4:55. So I was at the airport for like 7 hours. It was
wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, man. Jeez.
Yeah. But so QA and kind of stuff. I mean, I've known you for years. I've got tons of friends that work everywhere in the industry now. Like the industry's kind of weird and close knit in the fact that like all the people I started working with at Gearbox, like some of them are out at Riot in LA, some of them are out at like Epic, some of them are at Blizzard. Like everybody just kind of goes everywhere. So wow. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it's a positives and negatives of a small, close-knit industry, right? Is like everybody goes everywhere, but also everybody everywhere, right? Like it's nice to see a new face, but you run into everybody all the time.
Wow. Right.
Yeah.
So what exactly made you pursue a career in QA?
I've always been really passionate about games, like ever since I was really young. The first game that kind of drew me in and suckered me in was Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Which was funny because I was way too underage to have that game. I was like 7, I think, when I got Final Fantasy VII. No, I must have been later than that. Maybe like 8 or 9. I just remember I was on like a compact PC or something awful that could barely run the game super well. And I was playing it, and I remember all of Barrett's dialogue had like fake cursing in it, and even that made me nervous as a kid, right? So like it was the first game that I got invested in the story and the characters, and like I mean I never beat the game because your attention span when you're a kid, plus I didn't know how RPGs worked.
Mm-hmm.
But like that was the first big crack in the nutshell of me trying to play games. And I played games with friends a lot. Like everybody had an N64 at the time. Like we played Smash Brothers, we played Star Fox. Like I was the kid that was like the ringer, right? Like if there was a level that nobody could get past, they would just invite me over and I'd beat the level, and then they'd keep playing the game and stuff. So like I always had a really good affinity for playing games too, on top of just having a passion for them. And then so as I got older, I wanted to know what it took to make games just as a base level, and everybody always said that QA was a good like entry level into the field. And so I mean that's kind of what I tried for. Is I saw positions open up at Gearbox and I applied, and I got denied my first time, and then I got it the second time by complete pure random happenstance. I ran into a couple of the writers at lunch after I dropped off my resume, and they ended up kind of one of them ended up giving me a word to the QA manager and got that kind of spent along.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'd say that like the definitive thing that just got me into playing into QA was just I wanted to know how games worked, because they were so important to me growing up, and I had so many shared experiences with friends. I wanted to know how to do it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually remember back then when like Adam came and he's like, "Hey man, Uriah got a job at Gearbox." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was like, "That's crazy." I'm like, "How did you feel exactly? Like, I mean, how did that feel for you when you were like, they said, 'Hey man, you're in'?"
Oh man, dude, like it was crazy. I was so ecstatic, right? Because it felt like, I mean, winning the lottery in a lot of ways, right? Like I mean, especially after you get denied that first time, right? Like you have no expectations of the second time getting a yes, because like you're like, well, I mean, they already denied me once, and what's my more experience that I've gotten since the last time I applied? I've been a delivery driver longer, right? Like it's not like I got games industry experience like a ton. I went to like some conventions and stuff and mingled, but that was kind of it. That's not a really big headway into it. So I was ecstatic. I was really super excited. I was in love with Borderlands 1. It was a game that I played a lot with friends. I remember going to the launch party for Borderlands because like a lot of people hadn't really heard about it and weren't really stoked on it, and I got my hands on it and I played it. And when I played it at the launch party, I was like, nah, dude, this game's gonna be sick. Like, people are gonna lose their minds over this fucking game. Like, from the little bit I played, I wanted to keep playing. I knew they had something, right? And yeah, so it was just like, it was sick. Like, I don't know, it's just overjoyous, like, occasion, right? Like, I went and I celebrated with a couple of friends, right? Like, pretty much immediately afterwards.
Yeah, I would have too, man. Like I was like, well, this guy, he made it. He did it. He
Yeah.
did it. He broke into the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, once you're in, you're pretty much in unless you goof pretty hard, right? Like, it's a very tight-knit community. So, like, once you're in, you're pretty good at that point. Having any experience is, like, more than enough in so many different situations. So,
Nice.
yeah.
So, for those of us who don't know, what exactly does the job of a QA tester entail?
Oh man, it depends on where in the project you are. A lot of what people think of like playing the game doesn't really happen a lot. When they get to the part where it's like playing the game, quote unquote, you're usually in a lot of spreadsheets because you're running test passes for stuff, which a test pass is making sure that every single little thing works. So, for example, in like Borderlands, right? Like if you wanted to make sure that the game was all functioning, you had to check a lot of stuff that people don't think about having to check constantly. Like every time you would load a map, you would down yourself, revive, respawn at a respawn station, spawn a vehicle, get in a vehicle. Like you had to make sure all these kind of like base things worked before you could even start doing anything else. Like, does the trade system work? Does the trade system actually trade the item that you're trying to trade? Like, what happens if your backpack's full? Like, all of those things you have to like run through this sheet and just kind of check through all that stuff at the end of the project. At the beginning of the project, it's a lot more like nebulous and kind of free-flowing creativeness. So if you're like, we'll use an example of like Apex Legends, right?
Okay.
Like, let's say that it's the early stages of Apex Legends and you're a tester, and they've just introduced like the balloon zipline system, right? So there's no like real precedent for what you're supposed to test for that. You know that the design document says you're supposed to run up to it, press a button, it pulls you all the way up, and then it launches you off and you can go fly somewhere, like the drop mode from the dropship. So as a tester, my first thoughts are, okay, well, what happens if I try to activate an ability as I go up it, right? Maybe I'm playing as Wraith and I want to drop a portal and see if I can grab a portal through there. That seems kind of broken. Should that work that way? Like, all that stuff isn't really known, so a lot of testers kind of go through and like hammer at things for a while just to see what breaks in horrific ways. Because like sometimes like things crash and stuff like that. Like maybe trying to use the zipline in the middle of like Wraith's portal does crash the game. Maybe it like causes the portal to last indefinitely. A lot of these things kind of like come up during the early stages where it's like, hey, there's this really problematic thing going on. But in between the super creative stage and the super like running test pass stage, it's kind of a bit of a mix of both, with usually a lot of like play testing and stuff like that, or focusing on specific sections like as a group. Like, hey guys, today we're just going to test side missions. So like everybody is going to pick side missions from a list, and you're just going to play that side mission all day and try to break it in as many different ways as you can and check everything about it. So check the text, check the objectives, check trying to do things out of order, right? Like now that you know how the mission works, go run all the way to the end of the mission and see if you can just turn it in for some reason. Maybe that works, right? Like, that's kind of the day-to-day of a QA tester. It depends on where you are in the project, and there's a lot of looking at spreadsheets.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people don't really get that, but you really, really look at spreadsheets a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, in your off time, what video games do you prefer to play? Like, what are your favorite kind of games to play?
It kind of depends on like the back and forth because you know, like sometimes I'm in an RPG mood, right? Because like I mean, leveling up things feels great,
Yeah.
right? Always. I mean, I play mobile games. I've been playing the Marvel Strike Force, which is one of those like money pit time games where you can pay to skip stuff, but you collect all the Marvel characters and it's kind of fun. I definitely love shooters. I play like pretty much all the major shooters that come out. I'm not a big fan of Call of Duty in the way that kind of stuff plays out. It's too fast for me. I'm old. I'm old, man. I got like Halo.
Really?
Well, yeah, it's like yeah, I know. You're older than me.
Yeah, it's like
Right,
you're old, but I'm ancient.
Right,
man.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, I'm used to, like, the Halo time to kills and stuff like that, which are a little bit slower. In Call of Duty, it's like, I saw you, you're dead, right? Like, it's just, bam. Like, no reaction time if you get shot. You're pretty much dead if somebody catches you. I'm too old for that. So I've been liking Apex Legends because if I get shot, there's a really good chance I can get somewhere safe and turn around and maybe think about how to attack the person that shot me. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch just because it's fun to play with friends.
Oh, yeah.
Team-based stuff is fun. I played Dead by Daylight a lot for a while.
Mm.
I'm usually not into like suspenseful games and stuff, but like the 4v1, one person plays the killer, runs around, tries to kill survivors, like that was a lot of fun, you know. Outside of that, like I'm probably gonna play Titanfall 2 when I get back because I like Apex Legends so much, right? It's like, well, if that's what the gunplay was like, I've been missing out this whole time. I should have been playing that.
You didn't play Titanfall 2?
No.
Oh, man.
I know, it's bad. I mean, I obviously play Destiny. Like, I do go home at the end of the day and still play Destiny, right? Like, it's really hard being in development for a game that you like because, like, you'll be working on something and you're super stoked for it and you want to go home and get it and you're like, it's not out for 6 months. Whoops. Like, when the Black Armory Forges came out, I worked on the raid for Black Armory. Like, that was the thing that I was the test lead for. And there's one gun in Black Armory that, like, when I played with it, I was like, I need this gun no matter what, and it's Jotun. It's basically like a Mega Man blaster that's heat-seeking and explodes, right? So, like, it seems like I had so much fun playing with it, and I was like, oh, man, I want this gun, and I'm like, it's September. This gun doesn't come out until January. Oh. Great. Like, I gotta wait. Yeah, so I play a little bit of everything.
The burden of knowledge.
Right, yeah, the burden of knowledge for sure. I mean, I also play like Smash Brothers and stuff too. Like, I really love Smash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What characters do you play with in Smash?
Man, I'm probably gonna get hate for it, but Cloud was my main for the longest time because of the Final Fantasy VII thing. Like, yeah, he was really strong. He still is really strong. But you can't hate me for loving something that I grew up with, right? Like, I played him because I liked it, but Marth, Captain Falcon, Incineroar. Incineroar's been a really weird pickup for me this past, like, couple of weeks. Like, I like him. I like the way he plays. He's really weird. And it's also really flashy. I like the fact that he, like, shows off all the time after he does stuff. Yeah, so those are kind of the big four for me. Like, I can play a bunch of other characters moderately well, but those are the big four.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as far as, like, your career has been concerned, what do you think have been, like, your biggest challenges?
Oh, man. There's definitely a lot of challenges for QA. It depends on where you work at. But, you know, some places are hourly versus salary. It's more common to get hourly than salary jobs. Benefits, right? Like, is a thing that's not really talked about. By and large, QA generally doesn't get a lot of benefits from the get-go.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on company to company. I mean, obviously pay is part of that too, right? Like, whenever you're hourly, you got a lot more stress going on than when you're salary.
Yeah.
Other challenges outside of that are probably like, you know, there's always going to be something that you work on that you're not super stoked about, right? So there's always kind of that morale thing. Crunch is really hard. Like, crunch can really, it's not good. Crunch is just not good, period. People are not supposed to work like 80 hours a week, right?
Wow.
Like, yeah, I've done it before. Don't do it. It's not good. Don't do that. You know, like, that's, probably the biggest challenge is crunch, because sometimes you do need it, right? Like sometimes you have hard deadlines, and the amount of planning that you've done, like it doesn't allot for stuff. Sometimes things change, sometimes things get cut, sometimes all that kind of stuff happens, and there needs to be, even if stuff gets cut, there needs to be QA work done on things that get cut, because you need to make sure it's actually cut, right? Like, yo, we cut this thing, okay, well we need to slot out QA for a day to make sure everything related to this is not in the game, not in the game files, not referenced in text, not all that kind of stuff. And then if it is, then you have QA time to check that there's bugs fixed for all those things. So like there's that kind of like, it's like a ripple effect, right? Like anytime you do anything in a game, there's a QA cost. It's not free. There's no free anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, biggest challenge is probably crunch. Jeez. Crunch, man.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, it sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it happens in a lot of other industries. You know, it's notorious in games for like a bunch of different reasons, but you know, it's just not good. Just don't overwork yourself. Never overwork yourself. Don't do that. It's bad.
You heard it here, guys.
Yeah.
Never overwork yourself.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
So let me ask you, what do you think have been some of your biggest advantages, like, you know, going into the industry?
Well, so like advantages in the sense of like what I had before I got in, or like what I've gotten after I got in?
Both.
Okay. So before going in, like, I definitely played around with like the Unreal Editor. I used to make like maps in games all the time, you know, and I was very keen as a kid. Whenever I broke something with my friends, we would try to figure out how we broke it and do it again, right? Like there were so many times whenever we would play like, you know, like we would try to like bug out AI and stuff like that, like Halo or Time Splitters. Time Splitters was tons of fun, but there were so many things you could break about that game. It's kind of part of the fun, right? GoldenEye 2, right? Like all those games had bugs and like weird, wacky crap with them, and it was always trying to figure out how to get it to happen again, right? So having that going in was really great, because my first interview that I had for Gearbox was basically like a lot of companies do this where it's like you know, there's like logic puzzles or match games or sit down and play the thing and find bugs, right? So when it came down to like sit down the thing and find bugs, I found like a page and a half of bugs, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so at that point they were like, okay, well he can find bugs. That's, you know, part one, right? It's very important. Advantages after I got into the industry is, I mean, knowing people, right? Like I said, everybody kind of just constantly moves and spreads and goes to different companies and comes back sometimes, and they just kind of go everywhere, like you know, seeds, right? Like they just kind of float in the wind, and there's a tree over there all of a sudden. So knowing people is a big advantage once you're in the industry, and then just the raw experience of shipping a game is such a big deal. Like once you've shipped a game, you're pretty good at most studios, because as long as you prove that you can ship a thing, or you've gone from start to finish on a game, that's a lot of training they don't have to worry about anymore.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every company does development a little bit differently, but that's nuances, right? Like that's just massaging out the weird edges as opposed to teaching you how to make a clay pot, right? Right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
All the basic stuff is out of the way.
So real quick, I know we touched on how you felt when you got into Gearbox, but I want to know exactly how you felt when you got like that, like when you were notified, hey, like you're into Bungie, like because I remember, like we came over and I was like, man, this guy, he's really making it. Like, you're first your Gearbox, now this guy's getting the thing going to the Bungie.
Yeah.
Then we're like, oh wait, he's got to move to Seattle.
Yeah, no, moving to Seattle was definitely a big thing. It was definitely cool but scary at the same time, because like I had to move to a different city that I never lived in before, and I didn't really know many people. I knew like 2 people out there.
Wow.
But at the same time, like I've been playing Bungie games since Halo 1. I have a demo disc for Oni lying around my house somewhere. Yeah, like, you know, that's a game that, I mean, like Bungie's always been a really strange company in a lot of different ways, because they've made a ton of different types of games. Then they hit shooters and they hit their stride real hard, you know. But I was super excited. I mean, Halo was a huge part of my childhood. I played Halo 1 relentlessly with friends. And Halo 2, I played a ton in high school. Halo 3 came out on my 18th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, like so. I mean, that was my midnight for my birthday. Was I went to a GameStop. I sat in line for the midnight release, grabbed my Halo 3 Collector's Edition, went home and played the shit out of it all day. Right? I mean, I was in college, so it was one of those things that like I could get away with it. Kind of. Probably shouldn't have skipped classes, but
I'll make it up later.
right? Yeah, Halo 3, man. Right? 18th birthday. Come on, it's like the stars aligned. I think a Foo Fighter album also came out that day too. Right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was like I was listening to the CD, playing the shit out of Halo, and like it's great. Yeah, I was really super stoked. It was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Gearbox is definitely a big AAA studio, and I mean, so is Bungie. But like once Bungie stopped doing Halo and went to Destiny, I mean, the size of the two companies is just even drastically different. Like Gearbox is a couple hundred people, whereas Bungie is like 700, right? So it's a big, big, big studio, and it's also much more of a like, you know, continual machine because you have to constantly make content for people that want to constantly play your game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like learning, that was a big thing for me, is I wanted to learn how the hell you do that. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I learned that. Yeah.
So did your interactions with other people change like after you started working like in the industry? Like especially when you now people know, like you have friends who are playing the games that you are actually like a part of.
Yeah, I definitely still get people that text me about game bugs or game grievances. And it's like, yeah, sometimes I can do something about it, but most of the time it's like, maybe I'll log a bug tomorrow whenever I get in, if it's not already logged, because that's a totally separate team than me. You know, it's nice though to see my friends playing something that I worked on, just from a personal like pride perspective, of course, but also like it's the whole reason why I got into the industry, so that I would create stuff that my friends would play and get excited about. So like, yeah, like my friends, some friends get super more stoked about the game I'm working on than others. Some people kind of like get excited when there's a big launch and then kind of fade away, and then another big launch comes out and they get all excited and start talking to me again, right? Like there's definitely some of that. Sometimes going out in public is really cool, and running into people. Meeting a super fan is always fascinating, because like this hat is a Destiny hat, but you would never know it unless you played the raid that came out with Forsaken, because this is one of the symbols that's in the raid. I've only had one person in public recognize it, and he was like, "Oh, you're a Destiny fan," and I was like, "Yeah, you could say that."
Yeah, right.
I was like, "Yeah, you can say that," and he's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, I mean, I work at Bungie, right?" And so like I was like, "Oh, dude, that's so sick. Like, what team do you work on?" I was like, "The Raids team," and he's like, like, you know. So like that kind of stuff's cool, because I mean at the end of the day we're regular people, and for us it's our regular job, and it's kind of cool to see that we have such an impact on people. You know, like we definitely read Reddit, we read forums when people talk about, oh man, like, you know, Destiny saved me or helped me get through all this like tough times. It's like it's extra validation that what we're doing is important, right? Seeing that come from friends is even more important, because I've seen that happen sometimes. Like Borderlands really has helped a lot of people that I'm close with, and so has Destiny. Like those are really big games that people like. It helps change or help them just overall, you know.
Yeah.
So like that's always really fucking cool.
Yeah, man. Because like I remember the first time when we finished Destiny 2 for like the first time, and we were like, it was me and a couple friends. And I was like, hey guys, listen. I know one of my buddies is on the team here. Look, there it goes right there in the credits. Oh man, I know him.
Yeah. No, that stuff's exciting, and like I mean, like I said, once you get in the industry and like everybody goes everywhere else, I've watched through the credits now to see if one of my friends is at one of the studios of a game that I played. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, does anybody I know work on like Horizon Zero Dawn, or is anybody over at like Respawn now? Because like, there's so many people that just go everywhere, right? So like. Even inside the industry, it's the same kind of thing. Like, I get stoked about other people's games, and I try not to fanboy. Like, even at Bungie, I find out some people worked on Mass Effect 2, and I'm like, hey, so that's like one of my favorite games of all time. So, like, you worked on that? Dude, that's sick, right? Like, it's just, it's a constant, like, good vibes all around.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of good vibes, man, like, normally this week, we'd be having Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
But we're not, because you're here.
Right, correct.
So let me ask you, what sparked your interest in Dungeons and Dragons?
I mean, it's been on and off for a while. Like, the big thing recently was the changes to the 5th edition system, because they really simplified a lot of stuff. I really wanted to like Dungeons and Dragons in like 3.5. And I liked Pathfinder a little bit more than 3.5, but kind of like just the simplification of stuff. It was overwrought with a lot of design things, which some people like, don't get me wrong. Like, some people really like having every minute detail of what you can do, like, put in a game design document. But, like, I don't need a page and a half to grapple somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's how it used to be in, like, 3.5, is you'd have to try to start to grapple them, beat their AC, then you would, like, have to do another turn of actually grappling them, and then once they're grappled, every turn they can try to break from your grapple, and like all of this complicated stuff. Whereas in 5th edition, it's like, yeah, you rolled this one thing against their one thing. Did it work? Okay, you grappled them. But like, you know.
That's my preference.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it helps that just the game speed get along faster. That's the other thing that I really liked about 5th edition D&D, is it felt like things happened faster than 3.5. There was less looking up rules of stuff. There was less rolling to roll to see if you needed to roll to do the thing, right? Like, rolling for crits in 3.5 even was more complicated than 5th edition, because in 5th edition you rolled, did it land on a 20? Congratulations, you crit. In 3.5 you rolled, did you get a 20? Okay, roll again to see if you actually crit. Right? Like, crit confirms were a thing. Yeah, no, it was a thing.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Crit confirm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that kind of stuff, right? It's like, damn, dude, you're already making me like a 5% chance on a roll to get that, and then you're having to make me roll again to make sure my 5% is valid?
Yeah, oh, man.
All that kind of stuff. So that, I feel like they left a lot more stuff open, so like homebrewing is easier to do. The less like rules and intensity that you have, like with those systems, like the more you at home can kind of explore with your friends, like what you kind of want to do with those systems and what you want to build upon and stuff like that. I made a subclass for cleric. I never would have done that in 3.5.
Yeah.
Totally did it in 5th edition. Took me a night, right? One night of work.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It's pretty templated out for you, right? Like, it's pretty easy to understand. So, the chat's going off. Is there probably some questions in there?
Oh. Yeah. Oh yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's kind of what got me into 5th edition, was, and D&D in general, was just, it was fast. It felt better for storytelling, less having to worry about rules. But
yeah, I think
it's fun.
I think like I played D&D like a little bit before. I think you remember that one campaign that we were doing that Adam did like a few years ago, back when he used to live with Max.
Yeah, which one was that? The one where we were all characters, like real world characters that got put into D&D bodies? Was it that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I really got that.
Yeah.
I still really liked that. I tell people about that campaign all the time.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because I really like the idea that he basically like gamified the D&D, because like we party wiped. And he had a checkpoint system that brought us back, and everything in the game world worked the same except for one change we didn't know about, and so we would be able to basically burn through the content again faster.
Yeah.
And try things again.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, do you think your work as a QA tester has enhanced your play in D&D?
Yeah, for sure. Because like a big part of the QA job is seeing things from like outside of a bubble, right? And trying to see how to work and break things and make things kind of work together. So like every time I play D&D, rather than looking at like, man, what's really good class race combinations, I kind of try to twist it some and still make it work really well.
Yeah.
Like my favorite character that I've played in years is a tiefling eldritch knight fighter / paladin. Like I got 3 levels of paladin spliced in there.
Wow.
Right? And like if it wasn't for that charisma in there for the paladin, like
yeah,
I got strength noodles and caboodles of, I got some pretty good constitution, and I got some good charisma. It's not really what, when you think of fighting, like the charisma feels like a waste for a lot of people, you know? But my character was the face of the group for like the first 5 or 6 levels.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's nobody else that had better charisma than me. Right? So yeah, it definitely has helped me like look outside of the bubble rather than sticking to like tropes Because I've totally played an elf ranger before. I've totally played like a dwarf cleric before, right? Like I've done the tropes, and helping me break outside of that has led to some of my favorite characters and favorite, like, even just writing things, like writing a character or writing storylines for like you guys and stuff. Like it helps me go, what's the mold? How do I break it? Like in the B Team campaign when I had you guys deal with the kobold problem, right? Like
I miss B Team.
The kobold problem was one of my favorite things because like the QA mindset looked at that and went, what does kobold problem actually mean? Right? Like it can mean a lot of things, right? The QA tester me was like, what's a problem? Is it like a financial problem? Is it an ethical problem? Is it a military problem? Like there's so many different connotations to just thing problem.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I ended up you guys having to break up a union, more or less, right?
Yeah.
Or at least figure out why people were trying to form a union.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the kobold problem, right?
Oh, what was the name of the farm where we went? It was oh man. Oddberry Farms?
Yeah. Oddberry Farms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had magical healing pies.
Yeah, magical. Those were awesome. It was
great. It's because you guys didn't have the funds for healing potions and nobody in your party was a healer, so I had to give you guys something that could heal you, so magical pies it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it worked out. It worked out, man. Like, I really enjoyed that, actually. That was actually really cool.
Yeah. So, I don't mean to interrupt your questions, but they have a lot of questions there, so I'm thinking that once we're done with all of these, maybe we go through some of those.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let me ask, did you, like, when you stated that you wanted to go into the industry, did you ever get any, like, resistance or negativity from anybody that you knew?
Oh, yeah.
About that?
I mean, that definitely happens at first because, you know, well, especially at the time. It's probably easier now than it was when I started, because when I started was 2010. And so there was a lot of, like, people weren't really super sold on games yet. Like, the 360 was popular and it was getting traction, same with the PS3, but it wasn't like everybody had one, right? And so it was one of those things that a lot of people were like, yeah, it's a fun thing for you to do for now. You're young, so you can go explore it, but it's not a real career, right? Like, I got a lot of the, like, it's not a real career. Even in the industry early then, like, QA was like not a real career. Thankfully, the industry's kind of woken up to that by now, and they understand the importance of QA by and large. At least a lot of really good companies do. But yeah, there was definitely some resistance starting out. Yeah. It happens. I mean, it's inevitable. You always have that one parent that's super stoked because you're chasing your dreams, and you have that other parent that's trying to be the realistic, grounded one, right? So I kind of had a bit of that going on. Yeah.
So, looking at things the way they are now, what do you think the community is going to be like in like 5 years?
It's hard to tell. I hope that we're in a better place, right? Because like there's definitely still a lot of toxicity that happens, right? It's just like it's weird because like, and this might sound like a little bit bad, but kids are inherently toxic because to them, toxic things are things that get a reaction out of their friends, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, calling somebody derogatory things, right? Like, it gets all their friends to chuckle, so they're like, yo, dog, let's fucking do it all the time. But, like, once you get older, you're like, oh, God, that's so old. Like, come up with something original at least, right? Like, you know, but it's kind of like that. It's that entry door to that, like, kind of crappy behavior. And then sometimes they get rid of it, and that's great. And sometimes they don't, right? Like, I mean, I've gotten hate messages even recently. I've even gotten hate messages in Destiny before, right? And it's like, I got hate messages for being on the same team as somebody because I didn't do super great, right? It's like, what is that? So, I mean, like, there's kind of I hope the toxicity is largely talked about and, like, at least has a pretty good blanket of being dealt with in the next 5 years. Outside of that, I think that we're on like the precipice of a ton of creativity as well. Because like you've got these really, really big companies that kind of keep the games industry churning as a whole, but a lot of the smaller companies are coming out and doing weird, wacky things. I played Donut County, I fucking love that game. It's basically like inverse Katamari Damacy.
Really?
Yeah, like instead of collecting things onto a ball, you make holes and the holes drop things into the hole, and when you drop a thing in there, the hole gets bigger. Right, so like it's kind of a weird puzzle solving thing in that respect too, because you're like, I want to get the furnace, but the furnace is like 8 times the size of the hole I'm at right now. So what do I need to get furnace size to get the furnace, right? So you've got a lot of weird like creativity and unique games and stuff that are just coming out, and there's also kind of a lot of people that are going into indie and failing and either learning from their mistakes and coming up with something really better the second time around, or they're using that as a way to get in the door to the industry. They're still learning from their mistake, but instead of staying independent, they're going to another studio, and you get injections of creativity and stuff like that. Like even at Bungie, we one of our designers that's been working on some stuff recently came from Hyper Light Drifter, which is a great game. Yeah, no, she's amazing. I love Lisa. She's great. But like that kind of stuff happens, right? And so like those people that are creative and have unique experiences get injected back into the bigger industry machine. And then you get games like Horizon Zero Dawn, which are great and polished and wonderful. Apex Legends, right? Like you get all this stuff that's still willing to be bold and creative and different, but still plays inside of the machine, right? So I hope in 5 years there's a lot more creativity and cool explorational games. Toxicity is kind of dealt with, and we're just a healthier community overall. But I mean, that can be said for so many different industries.
Yeah, you're right.
Like comics, any of that kind of stuff is just, there's always that undercurrent of jerks.
Speaking of comics, I know this is kind of a little off topic.
Yeah.
But you remember when we went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
And you told me about because I was like, I'd never heard of Guardians of the Galaxy before. I'm like, who are these people?
Yep.
And then you're like, yo man, check this app out. It's like Marvel Unlimited.
Yep.
There's all these comics. Yo, I still use that app to this day.
I did too. I stopped using it for a while, and then Spider-Man PS4 came with a free month, and I was like, oh hell yeah. And so like I got back into it and I've had it since, right? Because anytime you're out and about, you just download a few comics and read it.
Exactly.
It's great. Comics are so dense, there's so much already there.
Yeah.
If you want to know stuff, it's like reading all of Lord of the Rings for one character.
Yeah,
right?
it really is.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was reading Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, oh man, this is cool. And then Nova showed up, and I was like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
And I was like, and I stopped reading Guardians of the Galaxy, and I specifically read Richard Rider as Nova, and I was like, wow, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing was like the cancer verse and stuff like that was later on.
Yeah.
Man, that was, oh man.
And then he died and was gone for a long time, and then eventually came back.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's dense.
Yeah.
Really dense stuff.
Yeah, it's such a huge backlog. I mean, especially if you just start reading comics now.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, man, like, what video game do you think factored the most into your career?
Into getting my career? That's tough, because, like, I'd say it was probably Mech Commander, which is a game that not a lot of people played. It was a real-time strategy game with mechs. Like, Mech Warrior was definitely a thing. A lot of people played Mech Warrior, giant zombie robots. Mech Commander was you were the commander and you had like lances of dudes and you'd run them around and do mission objectives and stuff. But it was my first crack into trying to break things because they did not encode any of the game files.
Oh.
And so as like a 9-year-old, I started poking around in those files and like trying to change values and see what would happen in game. Like I would change, I would save, I'd load up the game, start a mission. Oh wow, I made that blazer do like one-hit KO on everything.
Oh,
okay,
man.
that's too strong, I don't want to do that. But like even just kind of seeing how the underbelly of games worked and realizing that there's so much potential to just tweak things and like break things and stuff, that was my big first like, wow, I want to crack this egg and figure out how the hell they make an omelet, right? Like that was my first foray into that. So that was probably easily the biggest influence on me.
Okay.
I still love mech games to this day.
You still love mech games? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Mech Warrior 5's coming out.
Oh yeah?
This year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
It's got 4-player co-op.
Wow, I didn't even know that they were still making Mech Warrior games.
That one's had a bit of a troubled development cycle.
Man.
Yeah, that I think it got announced in 2013.
Oh man.
Yeah, from what I understand, they've like scrapped some of their stuff and redid a bunch of stuff because it's the guys that make Mech Warrior Online, which I had some fun with for a while, and then I like stopped playing for 6 months and went back, and I was like, whoa, this is really complicated. I don't. Whoa, way over my head. I was like, this is too much for me to just get back into to just shoot dudes with mechs.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Mech Warrior 5 looks like it could be really good. And then BattleTech, if you haven't played BattleTech, that's basically like Mech Commander. but on a grid system.
Oh.
Yeah, I love BattleTech. BattleTech's great. I've been playing the living daylights out of it. Those guys are right down the street from us too.
Really?
Yeah, so like even still, when I got in Bungie and like BattleTech came out and I was like geeking out, it's like I had friends that worked there. I have a friend that works there now. I have an ex-coworker that's there. Like, it's cool. Like, it's great how small that stuff is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Play BattleTech, kids.
play BattleTech, everybody.
Yeah.
So, do you, is your opinion of video games the same now as when you started out, like before you became a QA tester?
No, hell no. No, it's totally different. I mean, there's a lot of things that like I had these ideas that were kind of pushed as the narrative by a lot of people that weren't in games. You know, there's a lot of like misunderstanding of how games work, just as a whole. A lot of people see bugs and they're like, "Oh, where was QA on this?" And it's like, well, QA's job is to find the thing, not fix the thing. There's a lot of complications that go into that. Like if you find a bug and you go, okay, the bug is logged, then somebody on the team that's responsible for that looks at it and goes, okay, we feel like we can fix this. It's not very risky. And then they fix it, and then it goes back to you, and then you close the bug once you verify that it's actually fixed. Mm-hmm. In another scenario, you find a bug, it goes to the team goes, wow, this is actually a really big problem that's underlying a lot of systems. This is very risky for us to change it. Well, we're early in the development cycle, so we can do it, right? Like we can make a risky change right now, and then we'll just suss out all the other bugs that come from it. Like we'll deal with the wake. Gets passed back to the QA, it's fixed. And there's another one where it's at the end of the project, and that big problem comes out, and it touches a lot of things, and you're like, guys, we can't change this. Maybe we can try to take a fix for the 6 months down the line if we're lucky.
Wow.
Right? Because I mean, you're releasing new content that's building on this broken system, right? That's why, like, with Destiny and just that kind of stuff as a whole is like Destiny, you get Destiny and then expansion packs, but then Forsaken are bugs that we've been looking at for a while that are bigger and more problematic that we have to deal with that take time and a lot more testing because Destiny's a big game. So when you change something that touches everything, you gotta retest everything again.
Oh man.
Whereas with an expansion, you just gotta test the stuff that's in the expansion with a little bit of stuff on the outside, right? So like, once I'm in the industry, all those old kind of things just fall away. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some people that do some greedy practices in the industry, but by and large, like, games are not cost effective much anymore. I mean, think about it. So if a company has 500 employees, right? And let's say it costs you, let me grab my phone, let's do math. Let's say that it costs you $75,000 per employee, right? Like that is depending on where you live, could be a cheap cost, could be an expensive cost, because $75,000 an employee would be covering like the cost of housing them in your facility, their benefits, like the snacks you might be providing them, company events, right? So 75,000 times 500, that's $37 million, $37.5 million a year, base minimum just to pay your employees, right? So you need to sell 5 million copies of a game to get almost there. It's $60. And that's assuming literally all of the money goes to you. It doesn't.
Yeah,
right? Because publishers are a thing. Consoles take a cut, right? Like Valve takes a cut. Like everybody wants a cut of that pie, right? So even assuming that you only get like, let's go with like let's say you only get like $10 a game, right? Because like, yeah, it depends on what your contracts are. That could be right. So if you only get $10 a game and you need to make $37 million, right? Like it's crazy talk, right? Like sorry, my math was totally wrong there for a little bit, but no, 3 million copies of a game gets you $30 million. So you have to sell 3 million to get that 30 million, right? Bare minimum. So I mean, raising the base cost of a game could work, but a lot of people are resistant to that because games have been $60 forever.
Yeah.
Games have been $60 for over 10 years now, right? So there's all that kind of stuff that factors into it. That's why microtransactions are a thing. A lot of people in the industry aren't really big fans of microtransactions, but it's kind of like a give-take. Like, do you raise the cost of your game to be $70 and anger people, or do you keep it at 60 and maybe do some microtransactions, maybe you do some DLC, maybe you do some free DLC with a lot of microtransactions? It's a weird nebulous system that a lot of people don't really know a lot about. I mean, you remember whenever we were younger, Skyrim did the horse armor DLC?
I do remember that, yeah.
that was a great example of the industry didn't know what would sell. So they're like $5 for horse armor? Question mark. And we all laughed about it and talked about how stupid that was now. But I mean, in World of Warcraft, you can buy $35 digital mounts. So clearly they were onto something. It was the wrong time maybe, and it wasn't the right game for it because it's a single player game. So like, who are you showing off to that you got a horse armor yourself?
Yeah, I'm like, hey guys, come on over, check out this horse armor I got.
Yeah, in my single player game, right? Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that needed to get figured out. And I mean, we're even going through it right now with like, okay, well, loot boxes kind of seem to be bad. Nobody seems to really like those, and then they're kind of gambling, and so there's a lot of legislation and stuff going into it. So people are trying to figure out what works better. I mean, Fortnite clearly worked. They have loot boxes, sure, but they also have like their daily shops and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, once you're in the industry, you kind of understand why all those things happen. You might not necessarily agree with all of them all the time, but you get it. Whereas when you're outside of it, it's a lot harder to understand because you only see the end result. You don't see all of the thinking that goes up to that point.
Right.
Right? Like, why would they release like a new game 2 years later and stuff like that? Like, all that kind of stuff just becomes clear, right? And I'm sure, I guess circling back to that 5 years from now thing, I wish there was kind of more transparency into how everything works so that gamers were just more educated as a whole, because I feel like that could actually deal with some of the toxicity stuff too.
Yeah.
You know, we're all people at the end of the day. Yeah. We all want to like the thing we work on. We all, like, we're not cackling maniacally behind closed doors going, this is how we're going to ruin our players' lives this time, right? Like, none of us do that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, I remember, like, back when I was a kid, and I was, like, real interested in video games. Like, they would always tell me, oh, you should get into game development. I'm like, no, man. Like, I mean, because I'm like, even as a kid, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's real difficult to make a video game, and I'd much rather deal with the end result than like having to go through all of that, because like I'm more of a video game appreciator when it comes down to it. So I mean, like, yeah, I can kind of, especially knowing what you go through and like stuff that you like you say every once in a while, it's like, yeah, I'm good, man. I really don't know. I'm good.
Yeah, sometimes it's really stressful. Sometimes you got deadlines that are just really hard. You know, no matter what.
God.
Sometimes, I think the thing that a lot of gamers don't understand that I wish kind of would get cleared up at some points is like, when things get cut, it's not so we can use it later. It's almost always, this isn't working. Like, somewhere in there, like it doesn't fit with the game very well or something like that. And then so yeah, sometimes cut content does come back later, but it's because we've had time to think about how to make it work rather than just trying to shove it in a box and then put it out there. Like sometimes you don't want to do that, right? Like, could you imagine you're playing Smash Brothers and it's like, yeah, by the way, there's a trading card system inside the game that's not really fleshed out at all. It's just kind of there, and you're like, well, why would anyone want to engage in this? Like,
yeah.
You know, kind of like, I guess they kind of did that with stickers in the previous game. People were like, why do we care about stickers? And then they put spirits in this one. It's like, okay, that's a much more thought out system.
Yeah.
It feels like they might have could have cut stickers and nobody would have felt bad about it, but they didn't, and they kind of put it in there. And I mean, props to them for making it shippable and stuff like that, but I feel like spirits is an evolution in what that system should have been to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So like sometimes you got value propositions like that, all that kind of stuff is really complicated.
So in terms of like new people that would want to like maybe join your ranks, what would you give advice to new entrants into the industry, specifically into QA?
Specifically into QA, don't be cocky. There's a lot of people that are, believe it or not, like they think that the cockiness is a great thing. Like acting like you know what you are doing. That's a big gamble, because every company does QA a little bit differently. For one, right? So I'd recommend that you just get familiar with base QA practices. Definitely try to think outside the box. Observation is, it seems like something that is understood, but observation. Very important skill to have in QA. Like, even at a base level, like when I play games with people, there's a lot of times where I'll be like, hey, something moved over there, and I'll point to a weird part of the screen, and they're like, how the hell did you notice that? And it's like, I'm a QA, I have to notice this shit.
Right.
You have to notice every little thing that maybe is slightly different or wrong, because you're playing the same thing hundreds and hundreds of times. So if there's one small difference, you need to know, and you need to bug it, right? So yeah, observation skills, writing skills.
Really?
Yes. No, you write bugs a lot.
Mm.
You got to be able to communicate to people what the bug is in a short and efficient, concise manner. You don't want to be super wordy, but you don't want to be super vague. I've seen a bug before that was player floats about a foot above the graphics, and it's like, that doesn't tell anyone anything.
Yeah, I'm like,
where? How? What? Like literally floating? Like, what is your how? Graphics? Do you mean like everything? Are they just like out of the game world? Like what? So descriptions are really important. Being able to have it so that people can search for your bug is important. You know, this is a water bottle, but you know, you can say container. You can say a lot of other things for what this is. Learn how to say all those things.
Right.
You know, it's all very important because, especially language barriers sometimes. Sometimes you're working with people that are in different countries, sometimes different time zones, like all that kind of stuff. You gotta, if you wake up early in the morning and somebody looks at this and goes, this is a water bottle. Why would anybody call it anything else but a water bottle, right? Like, you need to make sure they can find your bug. So maybe you have water bottle in the title. Maybe you have water container in the description somewhere. Maybe in your repro steps you mention that it's like a thermos, like anything, right? Like, you gotta make sure it's readable and findable. Big three. Communication skills, don't be cocky, and definitely learn what it is to test things and be observant.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, on that in that same vein, what would you tell yourself? Like, if you could go back to the beginning and be like, hey, me, this is what the deal is. I'm gonna give you some advice. Like, what would you tell yourself?
I would definitely tell myself, don't kill yourself. Pace it. Pace yourself. There's been so many times where it's been like, yeah, there's optional overtime, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna jump on that. Especially when you're hourly, right? Is it's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna jump on that, and then mandatory crunch might come in, and you just worked a bunch of overtime leading up to that, and so you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, right? Like, pace yourself. Pacing yourself is a really big deal. Burnout is bad. I mean, that's kind of the reason why I left the industry in the first place. I burned myself out, and I went to go do mobile stuff for a while because it was less stressful, more regular, and stuff like that. You know, but now that I've been at Bungie is really good anti-crunch. They really don't like crunching there. It does happen from time to time. It's inevitable that things happen. But it's really kept to a minimum, and they have a lot of really rigid rules in place about how you crunch, what you do. So pacing myself has been better there, right? Like, it's much easier to be healthier whenever you're not stressing yourself out at work.
Yeah. And
then going home and then being stressed about something else, right? Because, like, as long as you can control the stress in your work life, great. Because you can control the stress in your home life most of the time too. Keeping those things in balance is very important. Throwing one out of whack, the other one's gonna suffer, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's what I tell myself. Chill out.
Chill out. Huh?
Yeah, chill out. You don't need to do everything right now. There's no reason to do everything right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, do you normally travel a lot, Uriah?
I do from time to time. I've traveled for work before, for conventions and stuff. I've worked conventions before, and I travel around willy-nilly sometimes. I do a lot. I try to take a vacation once a year somewhere, if I can. You know, like, I've gone to Disney World for like 2 weeks before.
Oh, nice.
That was nice. Saved up a lot for that, because that's expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But it was great. It's one of the best vacations I ever had in my life. Came out super relaxed after that, you know. Yeah, I generally try to take vacations, and I do travel a lot for work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if, like, any of us, like any of our viewers, or maybe even me, want to, like, meet up with you, like, at a convention or something in the future, like, is there anything, going to be anything like that in the future?
Yeah, I mean, like, I usually probably talk about it on Twitter if I'm going to go to a convention. Like, I'm going to go to Emerald City Comic Con. I applied for a pro badge, but we'll see if I get it, because who knows, right? Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, I'll go there as just a casual fan, whatever, you know, and just spend way too much money on art.
Yeah, I know that deal, man.
Last year I spent $200 on art, or the year before maybe. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
How much art does $200 buy?
It depends. Most artists usually have something at their, like, little station that's like $30, so that got me about 6 pieces of art. It's not too bad.
It's not too bad.
No, I mean, prints, sometimes original stuff, right? Like, yeah, it kind of varied, but yeah. I mean, I got, like, stickers and stuff that were cute too on the lower end, and I buy, like, a really fancy thing on the high end, you know. But yeah, So I'll be at Emerald City Comic Con. I'm not quite sure if I'm gonna go to like Guardian Con this year because that's the Destiny Con. It's all the way out in Florida. That is a long flight.
Yeah, I'm like, that's like basically on the other side of the country.
Yeah, that's like a 5-hour flight bare minimum, I think. And that if I'm gonna do that, I need to have 2 days for travel, right? Because I need to have travel on that day and then travel on another day. Because it's just it's a lot of flying and being in airports and the 2 hours before the flight and driving out there and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh.
So you mentioned like usually put that stuff on Twitter. Like has social media like really impacted your career at all?
I don't know if it's necessarily impacted my career so much as it's just allowed me to like talk to fans more. Like I play Destiny with people in the community fairly often, right? You know, being on the Raids team, there's like a little bit of prestige that kind of goes with that, which is funny because I kind of got kicked over to Raids team. I was on the Strikes team to start, and then the Strikes team kind of changed priorities and stuff like that, and then so I got put over on Raids team because they're kind of similar. Raids are just harder, right? Raids team got staffed up bigger and stuff like that. They had a bigger budget for stuff, so once that happened, I got a bunch of new Twitter followers all of a sudden, right? Because like people on the Raids team were talking to me and stuff on Twitter, and it's just I was like, oh right, I'm a quantity now, right? But outside of that, no, I think the biggest thing that it does for me is it helps me communicate with fans.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, and don't say anything if you can't.
Right.
But like, what kind of new stuff do you guys have in the works over there at Bungie?
Well, I mean, so we're doing the season pass stuff. A lot of it's pretty much like, so the season of the Drifter stuff is obviously pretty much already done because like it's out in March, right? You know, and that's a new season's worth of content. You know, we're doing regular drops and stuff like that. Obviously, there's going to be Gambit stuff. I'm super stoked. I love Gambit. I still play Gambit with my friends all the time. Some of the stuff that they're adding to it, I'm also super stoked about. Obviously, I can't talk about it in depth, but I'm give now. It's one of those things that like I played it in play tests, and you know it's like oh shit, it's gonna be out in like months. I have to wait to play it with my friends. Stuff after that is I don't know if we've actually given it a name, so I think this season of the Redacted or something like that. All that kind of stuff is not really in my purview because we're not really like my team isn't really doing anything for that right now. The stuff that we're working on is really cool. I can't talk about it because it's not announced, but there's definitely stuff. There's always stuff, right? There's always stuff going on. So like, there's always going to be stuff after that season of the whatever comes out, right? There's going to be something else, and like I'm super stoked about what we're doing. I don't know. There's just so many cool things that are happening, and like 9 times out of 10 when I see a cool thing, I'm like, when is it supposed to come out? Because I don't know, right? Because like maybe somebody on the art team got some free cycles and they're working on like ornaments or like a new weapon or something, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. When's it coming out? And they're like, yeah, that's bookmarked like 9 months down the line. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, because the artist team already did everything they need for here and here, and it's like, oh, they got some free time, so they just did stuff for whatever. It's like in a bucket to take later, and it's like,
oh, wow.
But take now. Take now. And it's like, yeah, but that artist might have to work on something later, so we're just going to hold on to it so we make sure that we have things.
Right.
Right? Because nothing's worse than having a release come out and go, we only got like 2 weapon ornaments because we didn't have anybody to make any, right? So all that kind of stuff happens. Yeah, I'm super stoked about the Drifter release. Gambit stuff's fun.
Yeah, Gambit is really fun.
Gambit's fun, man.
Yeah, I had no idea that it was going to be that fun. I was kind of like, oh, okay, Gambit, okay, let's see what happens. And I was like, wow, this is really fun.
Yeah, and it was funny too, because I remember for a while people were really concerned internally and externally about like people having like comps that just guaranteedly won Gambit every time. And I mean, yes, that is probably still a thing. But you're talking about the top 0.00001% of people that can pull that off because it requires a lot of specific guns, which is fine. A lot of people can get guns. But it also requires the skill to pull it off.
Right. Which
whenever someone can invade in Gambit, I'm not going to lie. I work at Bungie. I like to invade in Gambit because I'm really good at the game.
Of course.
I've probably caused a lot of tears of people with like 15 motes running up to the bank, and then I show up and I'm like burnt, and they're just gone.
Dude,
right?
I get super nervous when somebody invades. I'm like, oh man, if somebody's gonna get killed, there's probably gonna be me, and I'm gonna have like 20 motes I'm like, oh, I'm going, I made it to the bank, and it's like, and then here, bam, you're dead right before you get to touch the bank.
Yep.
I'm like, oh.
My pro tip about being worried about invaders is look for the people that have the most moats on your team and protect them. Because the invader is almost always certainly going to go for them. If you're an invader, my tip for an invader, do not run directly at your target. There have been so many times where I've been playing and the invader comes in and I go, there's 3 places that an invader can spawn in every map. And so I'm in the middle and the invader spawns in and I look 1, 2, 3, and if I see the red smoke anywhere coming towards me, I'm like, and then I just pull out my sniper rifle or my auto rifle or pulse rifle or whatever and I just melt them before they can do anything. It's like, don't run right at me, dude. But yeah, I'm super stoked for that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we are done with like pretty much our part of the interview. Now we're going to move on to viewer questions. That's right.
It looks like there's been a lot. This is very popular.
All right, so let's see. Rico asked, "What's your favorite department to talk to outside of the other testers?"
I mean, we talk to a lot of departments on a fairly regular basis. I love talking to designers personally because they are essentially the antithesis of QA, right? Like they create, we destroy in a lot of ways. I mean, it is what it is. So like, designers are always my favorite because whenever we put in a bug, sometimes they give us resolutions that we're not expecting or fixes to things we don't really expect. It's always fun to pick their brain and be like, why did you pick, why is this the fix, right? And stuff like that. Like, why are we doing these things? Like, it all helps in understanding of how the overall game stuff works because, especially as a QA, they do this thing for this specific reason, and then later you come across a problem that's similar. You know the reason why that problem is happening is because of this system you learned about like 6 months ago because you asked the designer. Yeah, I love talking to design, but that's also because I want to be a designer myself someday. Yeah, somewhere over the rainbow. You know.
Way up high, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man. Let's see. Do you have any other questions?
I'm pretty sure there's a ton up there that they got.
Scroll up.
Yeah, I gotta scroll. Let's start at the top. Start from the bottom over here.
Let's start from the bottom. Questions.
All right, so we answered the how do you get into being a tester.
It's like, have you tested some really big games, and if so, which one is your favorite?
Have I ever tested some? I mean, yeah, Borderlands 2 definitely is a really big game. So is Destiny.
Yeah.
Which one is my favorite is really hard. I'm naturally gravitated towards Borderlands 2 because it was the first one I worked on. I really liked the Borderlands series, and so like, I mean, I named my dog Axton, right? Like, I really like the game a lot. Like, I did some editing for the strategy guide for it. Like, I'm in there as an editor, and I'm a contributor. Like, my build for Axton is their pick and stuff in the Borderlands 2 strategy guide and stuff like that. So, yeah, probably Borderlands 2. Yeah.
Nice.
Don't get me wrong, love Destiny to death. Still love Destiny 2, right? It's just that's like, that first one is so special in a lot of different ways, especially because it was something so big as Borderlands 2 right out the gate.
Yeah, Borderlands 2, I remember when that game came out, I was like, oh man, I'll never forget, man. Whole thing about the, whatchamacallit, like, you're like, oh yeah, man. It's a, what was it, Krieg.
Yeah, Krieg was great.
Oh man.
Krieg was great.
I was like, when Krieg, like, I lost my mind.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's always hard, like, knowing those things are coming, you can't like tell anybody. You're like, oh, there's a thing coming down the line that's gonna be really good, but I can't tell anyone. I just feel like it's exciting. Trust me, it's really super cool.
And it's like, oh my god, okay, what's this? And there's like, oh my god.
Yeah, playable psycho.
Oh man.
Yep.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
That, I tell you what, the thing when they were showcasing him the first time is when he's like, he's down, and then he has the dynamite, and he blows himself up, and he kills everybody, and then gets back up. I was like, I'm sold. I'm completely sold.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was good stuff. I think it always scrolled back down to the bottom because we got more.
Oh god, let's see. Did you see Bandersnatch, and if so, what did you think about its commentary regarding the gaming industry?
I have not seen it actually. Is that? I assume that's a movie or a TV show. I'll have to probably check it out then if it's got commentary on the games industry.
Yeah.
That can always be like a plus or minus.
Yeah.
You know, the games industry has definitely changed a lot since I started being in it, and that's only been, oh god, 9 years. I'm old.
Wow. Rico asked, can I have your friend code?
For Smash Brothers, I mean, yeah, I got it somewhere. I can, if you hit me up on Twitter, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm awful about friend code stuff on Switch because it's still so convoluted. If it was just like searching for a dude's name and then be like, boop.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, just hit me up on Twitter.
Riku also asked, what's some of your favorite ways to find bugs?
Oh man, my favorite ways to find bugs are that stuff I was saying earlier, where you kind of like you don't really know what's going on, and you just gotta kind of like hammer at it until shit just explodes violently. So like with Borderlands, right? Like whenever the Bandit Technical got put in, we're like, oh, it's a 4-person vehicle, cool. What can we do? What happens if like 2 people try to get in at the same time? And there's like tons of bugs that come out from that kind of stuff. All of the silliest bugs are everything that happens whenever stuff gets first put in, right? All that stuff is great, and that's always the most fun for me because it's untouched territory. It's like exploring a new world, right? Like everything's fresh. You don't have to worry about duping somebody else's bug because nobody's tested this before. It's brand new, right? You know, it's like the equivalent of getting to the bakery first in the morning and you get your first pick of which donut you want. Hot and fresh, you're like, ah, oh, man, do I want the chocolate with sprinkles or do I want a filled donut? Or right? It's like, it's that, you know?
Yeah. Oh, man.
I think it ought to go to the bottom again.
Will you post his Twitter in the Discord?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I will. I will definitely do that. Let's see. He's like, what's the best way? Rika wants to know, what's the best way to submit music to a developer?
To submit music to a developer, that's really hard because there's a lot of legal shenanigans that get kind of like in the way of that, right? Like a lot of game companies won't touch it with a 9-foot pole just because, like there's a lot of legal stuff that goes into it that even if they listen to it and anything is even remotely similar later by either coincidence or otherwise, there's legal grounds there, right? So honestly, the best thing is just make fan works with it. A lot of developers don't take outside contract stuff, but if you do stuff that gets popular enough, they might reach out and work with you, right? Like we've done that kind of stuff with our fans and like fan artwork and like Twitter and stuff like that. We might feature your stuff, which, I mean, it's not in the game, but it's as close as we can do, right? Without, like, actually hiring on as a full-time employee. And we do hire people that work in, like, the mod community and stuff. Like,
really?
No. One of our programmers that we had for just overall code stuff did, like, I want to say they did a bunch of multiplayer maps and, like, modes and stuff with Halo Forge. Like they did a bunch of upgrades and things to Forge. Like they did a bunch of fan work, and we're like, "That's really good. You should just come work for us, right?"
Nice.
So there's totally a world in which like your music that you create and put out in these fan vids and stuff grabs our attention, and we're like, "Yeah, we should hire him as a composer," right? Like there's a world in which that can happen.
Wow.
Yeah. Not saying it's a very likely world, but that is probably the best way to start. Is like putting it into stuff that we can get our eyeballs on.
Let's see.
We did get the Smash Ultimate in the mains, so
Yeah.
that's good. What's some of your favorite ways to find bugs? Also, are the physics on the rockets still the same? I mean, like, so physics on rockets in Destiny are, they are probably largely basically the same. There are changes to them that happen anytime you go from, like, one game system to the other. Like, yes, they're still fundamentally the same, but projectiles and stuff are wonky and weird, man. The rocket themselves has collision and stuff like that, and having to work with that and networking code and all that kind of stuff is shenanigans. So there are changes to it that probably happen in the back end more often than the front end. From your perspective, they're probably the same rocket. From the back end, they might be a little bit cleaner and faster on the netcode.
Nice.
That kind of stuff happens.
What's your favorite? Rico also wants to know your favorite comic book character.
Oh shit. There's so many. Favorite of all time, probably. I mean, I love Iron Fist. Like, I mean, he's definitely still got like a lot of stuff. He's like a weird pseudo martial arts Batman for Marvel in a lot of weird ways.
Yeah.
But the Brubaker Matt Fraction arc of him like did a lot to build him as a character outside of he's just rich man who has gadgets and. Well, not even really gadgets, but rich man who has a fallback in case he gets busted for being a vigilante, right? Like, that's a thing. Outside of that, I love Captain America. I'm a very big, like, no sacrifice kind of guy. So like, there is no sacrifice play, right? The
Right.
sacrifice is me if it's anyone, right? Like I'm one of those types of guys. So Captain America is a big deal for me. Like I said, Iron Fist. A lot. I mean, it's a lot of Marvel characters for comic stuff. I like Moon Knight. The Moon Knight Ellis run was great. Venom is great.
Oh yeah, that is my favorite, like, of all time.
Yeah, there's a lot of the different Venom arcs are really good too, right? Like you got your Brock versus your Mac and all that kind of stuff. Like the different Venoms themselves, different weird stuff. My favorite comic book arc of all time is really easy for me though, because that's Annihilation and Annihilation Conquest.
Oh yeah,
That
I
shit's so
remember
good.
that.
That's
Yeah.
it's just so good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I have other superheroes that I love a lot that I'm just forgetting right now off the top of my head. I mean, I obviously like Spider-Man. The Spider-Man game that just came out was great.
Yeah.
If you haven't played that Spider-Man game, dude, you're doing yourself a disservice. That's all I gotta say.
I think I would like saying like Venom is definitely my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
I think like because like ever since I was a kid, I was always a huge fan of Venom.
Yeah.
And Deadpool definitely would definitely be one of my favorites. And I think like my favorite like comic book in general though would have to be Thunderbolts.
Yeah, Thunderbolts is really good. I really liked Ellis's run on Thunderbolts too, because like Warren Ellis is just a really good writer. Period. He's also the guy that wrote the Castlevania series on Netflix.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like he's just a really good writer. Period. Sometimes has like weird, quirky shit in there occasionally, but he did the Moon Knight run that I really liked. He did the it was an Inhuman guy that nobody cared about. He's like One Punch Man in the Marvel universe, right? Like he can just one hit quit somebody because his power is that he can see weakness.
Oh.
So he can see everybody's weakness and exploit it, right? No matter what it is, whether it's physical or otherwise.
So that was like a solo run for that character?
Yeah, I can't remember what his name is. It's gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Because again, interviews so naturally brain turned mush.
Yeah,
But yeah, his Thunderbolts run was also really good too, because that's the one where Osborn's like running it.
Oh
and stuff.
yeah, dude, that was serious business.
Yeah, with like Songbird and all them, I think, right?
Yeah, because then he like Songbird, I think Radioactive Man, I think was on the team.
Radioactive Man was in that team.
Yeah.
Venom was on that team, obviously.
Like Mac Gargan, I think.
Yeah, it was Matt Gargan.
Yeah.
Venom. Yeah, I don't remember if Bullseye was on that team or not.
I think Bullseye was was he on that one or the next one? I think.
Don't remember.
Because I remember he was Hawkeye, right? He was like, I think it was when he did the Dark Avengers, right? It was like Bullseye.
Yeah, there was a bunch of weird.
Moonstone.
Yeah,
Oh.
she was on the team too. I think actually, I think Moonstone was on the team for that. But yeah.
The drugged up Venom because like he was like super ineffective at that point. They had him like on like drugs and stuff.
He didn't want to murder anything.
It's like is Bungie hiring for testers right now?
We're not hiring for testers right now. We're kind of in a weird spot, like trying to figure out where we need to be studio size wise and stuff like that. We're not doing like any layoffs or anything. That's not a concern. But like we're trying to figure out our future, right? A lot right now. So we're not hiring testers right now. We might be towards the end of the summer, maybe. We might be having contract positions, but that's definitely a riskier thing, right? Because like it's a 4-month contract and you may get extended, you may not, and there's a lot of weird laws in Washington that I'm not even fully apprised of as to how contracts work. Because in Texas, it's like there's very defined laws for contracts, and up there's defined laws, but they're different. Like you can't have more than 10 months in a single year for the same contractor or something like that.
Weird.
At the same company. Yeah, there's stuff like that I just don't really know a lot about. So I can't fully like say, hey, if you're out of state, apply for this contract position there. But full-time positions, yeah, absolutely. They'll move you and everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we missed some in there as well. Up top.
Ooh, let's see. Let's see. What all studios would you like to work at that have been dreams of yours for years?
There's only one left on the list now, because Gearbox and Bungie were 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Well, in opposite order. I think Gearbox was my number 3. Double Fine was my number 1.
Double Fine?
Yeah. Double Fine doesn't really make a lot of games as much as produce them now, so that's kind of a... I mean, I also don't want to live in San Francisco because it's way too expensive.
Yeah.
Double Fine is like the long dream thing that like Double Fine 10 years ago is probably the dream for me, right? You know, I still would love to work with them. I still think Tim Schafer is incredibly talented, you know, but yeah, that's probably the last big one that I want to work for. I'm curious about working at a couple of other studios, of course, because I just want to know how they do things, right? Like, especially with Respawn and Titanfall and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm curious about that. I've always been curious about working in a place like BioWare, too, because I've loved their games, by and large, as well. Those are kind of the big ones in the industry right now, I think. You know, I'd also be curious to work for some place like Square Enix, because they also make games different than everybody else.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it boils down to, is like, how do another game? You know, how do other place? So
are you going to be playing Anthem?
I don't know about on launch. There's some things in the game that I'm a little bit hesitant for on a day one thing. Division 2 currently has my interest a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I'm kind of feel the same, actually.
It's also a time sink, right? Is like, I do actually still play Destiny on my spare time from time to time, and like trying to figure out another big game to jump into is just
a bit much.
It's daunting, right?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I will absolutely be playing Anthem at some point. I just don't know if it's day one, right? There's just some, there's probably going to be like some stability things that need to be worked out. I had some weird flashbacks of Mass Effect 3 multiplayer problems. Did you ever play Mass Effect 3 multiplayer?
I did.
Okay, so you know that it was all or nothing.
Yeah.
You either played all the way until your team lost, or you got nothing.
Yeah.
So if you got kicked from the server on round 9, you got nothing.
Yeah.
And that happens in Anthem right now. If you don't finish the mission, you don't get the loot.
Yeah.
So that's a big, scary thing for me right now. It is like, I don't want to play a game that is so heavily invested in the loot game that if I get a connection problem, like maybe my internet fritzes out, I lose it all, right? Like, it's not even just your character got these things, so you get them when you log back in. Maybe that's going to be a thing at launch. I don't know, right? Because it just wasn't that way in the beta. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's a cautiously optimistic for me.
Cautiously optimistic. Yeah. Only time will tell.
Yeah. Oh, man. And fixes. All right, I think we got to scroll back up again.
It's Rico wants to know, what do you feel that they could improve on in Smash Brothers?
Oh man, I think Smash is actually in a really good place right now, by and large. I think a lot of their problems would be like, you know, playing online with people. Like the net connectivity still has some problems. I still get matched with people that's like playing a slideshow. A slow motion slideshow, no less.
Not even a quick one, it's like a slow motion.
Yeah, it's like everything's moving slow motion, and then dudes like teleport, and I'm like, what? How even, right? So I mean that could use some changes. Actually, I think the biggest thing for Smash Brothers that I would say could use improvement is just adding more single player content outside of fixing netcode. Like, not necessarily home run back contests and stuff, but like, you know, maybe for version 3.0 there's another like mini game mode or something that they put in the game. That'd be fun. That'd make me interested to like play Smash Brothers like regularly again. You know, outside of just playing the actual Smash modes. You know, I feel like that's really solid. I feel like they figured that kind of stuff out pretty hard. You know, I don't think a lot of iteration needs to be done with that.
Let's see. Rico also wants to know, is everything going all right with the split?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really like talk about that much, but I mean, yeah, everything's fine. You know, it was an amicable agreement, right? You know, Bungie's doing fine. Bungie will be doing fine for a long, long time.
Yeah, I figure, right?
Not for anything more than we don't play the same game most American companies do. We're not publicly owned, right? Being privately owned means a lot of things. It means you don't have to hand out all of your profits to everybody immediately because they're your shareholders. It means you can make a nice little safety cushion in case there's problems, right? Stuff like that, you know. So everything's fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. What are the questions?
You know, it's funny to me too because I remember, like, you know, whenever Gearbox made Battleborn and Battleborn didn't do so hot, everybody's like, "Oh, is this it? Are they closed?" And it's like, no, they're privately held. They're not. They don't have to worry about that. You can have a mistake if you're a private company. If you're a big public company, a big mistake is bad.
Yeah.
Real bad. Because your whole company value just plummets, right?
Yeah.
One thing. So, most companies that are privately held are generally pretty good.
Yeah.
As long as they're managed right. Because, I mean, we can look at stuff like Kingdoms of Amalur, and you're like, oh, no, that's not how you do that.
Yeah. I will say that I was really depressed when Battleborn didn't like really take off.
It was really good. I really liked the game.
Yeah.
I only worked on it a little bit in the super early stages, and there was some. I'm glad they fixed some of the things from back then, because like when you were playing as Storm, you could snipe people on the other side of the map.
Woo, man.
There's still arrow drop, but it was no damage fall off at all and stuff like that. So I was sniping people as they were coming out of the door all the way on the other side of the map.
That's crazy.
When you're a tester, you have those skills, you know.
God, I mean, I really like that game, and I think like I'm like you know, like Overwatch, like kind of like, I mean, I love Overwatch, right? But I also loved Battleborn.
Yep.
Like I could have played both of those games forever. Like Overwatch.
Two completely different games. Really,
Yeah, they
in a lot of ways.
really were. And then
The
people
time
compared
per
them a lot.
match was really different. I think that if Battleborn would have come out as free to play to start, it'd been totally different. They would have had their own niche. They would have sat in, and Overwatch would have been somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't, and you know, it's kind of a learning lesson for them, I'm sure. They all their DLC characters are really good too.
Oh man.
I love playing as Pendles.
Pendles, yeah, Pendles. I loved Pendles.
Yeah.
I think like my favorite characters were Pendles, man, the Valkyrie chick, Reyna,
Mm-hmm.
and Isaac.
Oh yeah, Isaac's great. Yeah, I liked Soldier 76 because it's basically Axton-ish, right? Like it's very Axton-like. I was really good at sneaking behind people and just grenade, machine gun, kill the one person important. Like he's really good at diving, right? Like he finds one person, dives them, kills them, and gets out.
Yeah.
That's how I play Brigitte in Overwatch too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I'll be frontline support and defense, and then it's like, wow, that one Mercy keeps their team alive. Give me a minute, and then I'll like leave and go find a way to get behind the team and find the Mercy and just stun and just murder her before their team knows what's going on. And then if they have to turn around and kill me, then their whole line falls apart, right?
Yeah.
So I've done my thing if I can kill the Mercy and dive in.
Actually, I'm really interested to know, what do you think about some of the changes that they've made to some of the characters in Overwatch? Specifically, somebody like Sombra, who came out and she was like a certain way, and now like they've completely changed the way that Sombra works.
I think it's tough because like those games are essentially living in a lot of ways, because people will play them so much that they find, like, you build a game and it's a really nice house, right? Like you build your house, it's great, it's got a good foundation, everything's great, and it's fine. And your inspector comes by and it's fine, and 3 more inspectors come by and it's fine, and you're like, great, cool, everything's good with the house, let's push the house out. And then millions of people come inside your house and are inspecting every single little nook and cranny of your house. So every place there could be a fault, they find the fault and they exploit the living crap out of it, right? So then your house that you thought was fine is like, well, now we have to add a garage because they figured out how to put a car in my living room somehow, right? Like, so we need to put that's not where cars go, right? Like, so that's where like the meta develops, and it's like, well, we didn't want the meta to be that, so we got to change something about it to change the meta so it's not what it is.
Mm.
And I mean, some of those changes are good, some of them are bad, and then they find out and they try to retweak based around those changes. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Reaper gets changed again in the future, or
Yeah.
Reaper is really strong now, but something they've got planned in 3 months makes Reaper just okay.
Yeah.
I say Reaper is strong. He's strong at low levels. He's not really strong at high levels. High tier people don't really play Reaper at all.
Oh really?
Yeah, because the instant a Reaper shows up, he gets stunned and then killed immediately, because they know he's don't leave him alone, right?
Yeah.
At low levels, it's easy for a Reaper to like get in and kill a tank before people realize there's a Reaper there.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel like Overwatch is a really weird up and down balance world. I find myself playing a lot of Zarya lately, and I never really played Zarya a lot before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's because of balance changes or what, right? Like, I play a lot of tanks.
Mm-hmm.
I play Brigitte and mostly tanks. So anytime I'm like swapping around and being like, this tank feels a lot better, it's probably because of some sort of inherent thing I didn't realize was going on in the systems that they changed in the patch or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like because I mean I play Sombra a lot. Like
Yeah.
that's like the minute the Sombra dropped, I was like, I think I want to play that character.
Yeah.
But one of the things that always kind of bothered me, I was like, man, the 5-second invisibility is for the birds, man.
Yeah, no, that's not a lot. That's not a lot to do anything with.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can go from here to here, and like, great. I mean, now I'm in this one spot, but then like somebody turns a corner, and now I'm dead.
Yeah.
So then when they made it like completely like, you know, infinite like what you call, they're like, oh, well, we're gonna slow her down and then like make her invisibility like infinite, and then people are like, oh man, you made her slower. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if like your infinite like invisibility, doesn't matter how slow you can go. You could be going like at a snail's pace, but if nobody can see you, you know, you're eventually gonna get behind them. You know, so I don't know. The hacking doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't. If you can do it before people realize what's going on.
Yeah.
It's always bad when you start hacking somebody and they notice it immediately and shoot you. And they're like, I didn't get to finish.
I'm like, oh.
I needed that because you're a soldier 76. I
Yeah.
can kill you if you're not healing, but now you can heal and rocket me and I'm dead.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh man, because I never until I started playing Sombra, I didn't realize how many characters like really lean on their powers, like Doomfist.
Farah.
Yeah, Farah.
Right? Yeah, like Farah can still do decent damage with rockets and stuff, but if you disable her ability to fly,
Yeah, she's
right?
done.
Like, good. You know, like, yeah, like there's definitely some characters that are, it's not a big deal, but like May.
Yep.
She can freeze you, but she can't protect herself anymore, which means you can just rush her down.
Exactly.
Right? Like, any of the tank characters, really, if you hack them, they're having a bad time. You know.
Roadhog, Reinhardt.
Diva even has a really hard time because if you hack her, she can't defense matrix.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, but that's not good. Yeah. Yep. It's all complicated and interesting. I'm sure there was more questions in there that we missed that are in the middle now.
Let's see. Have you played Kingdom Hearts 3? And if so, what did you like about it, and what do you feel needs to be improved?
I have not actually played Kingdom Hearts 3. It is a game that my partner loves. She's played Kingdom Hearts a lot. I have never had a PlayStation until PlayStation 4. So I'm way behind the curve on like Kingdom Hearts and all of the Drake games and all of the PlayStation things. I'm way behind on that. Curious to try it. It's not high on my priority list because Apex Legends is a thing and I'm fucking addicted. I've played a lot of Apex Legends in the short time that I was allowed to play it before I came on the trip.
Okay.
Good game.
Yeah.
Love that game.
Yeah, it's pretty
super
cool.
solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It deserves your attention.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
I think there's some more stuff that we need to find somewhere in the middle there.
Let's see. This battle tag.
We did the favorite department. What's the best way to submit music? I should check out Canoga and Canuga.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm always kind of curious to see what cons there are to go to. It's hard for me because I don't have a ton of money to go to cons on a regular basis. So like a local one like ECCC is great. PAX, we get badges at Bungie like at cost, you know, pretty easily. So that's usually a thing that I go to. Cons outside of the state is a bit more because like I gotta use PTO and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I'll take a look. We'll see.
Let's see.
Having noticed any major changes in the rockets with Halo? Oh, with Halo. Rockets in Halo definitely probably changed some. They had to inherently because you had stuff like the gravity hammer get introduced, which can deflect rockets, right? I'm sure that a lot of stuff for the rockets was definitely netcode based. I don't know how it is in 4 and 5 because, you know, Bungie doesn't handle the Halo games anymore. They feel a little different. They feel less meaty in some ways, I guess. But there's definitely a lot of tweaks they probably do all across the board of like rocket speed, damage, track time, track capabilities. There's all those things they probably tweak that have changed.
Let's see. Let's see. All right, you guys have any more questions for our man here?
What systems or console do you believe is superior for gameplay?
Oh boy.
Well, that's actually tough now. It was PlayStation 4 at the beginning of the race, if only because it had an extra gig of RAM it could use, but the new Xboxes don't have that problem. I haven't played on an Xbox One S. Obviously, the newer versions of consoles are better. Yeah. Like the Pro, it loads things so much faster than my regular PlayStation 4 did. Like, it's so much faster. I need to get an Xbox One S. I still think that PlayStation is the superior console right now just because it's got a lot of the better things you want to play. But I think the Xbox could get there because Microsoft is making some really good strategic decisions about what companies they're buying and how they're trying to position themselves. Like, I have a Game Pass, and I maybe play a game on the Game Pass once every other month. I think the Game Pass is a good idea for them because, like, I know that if they release 2 games that I want to play every year, they're going to be on the Games Pass, and that's the cost of the Games Pass for me.
Yeah.
So I've broke even at that point essentially. The 2 games I want to play on Xbox, I got on the Games Pass. If they release 3 games, I'm technically ahead.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then they've got the cross PC console. Like, you buy it on one, you get it on the other thing. That's also mind blowing. Like, I think Xbox is poised to be in the lead in the next year or 2 if they play their cards right. I think PlayStation is still the superior one right now. I think the Switch is absolutely great, but it's its own separate field, thing. Right? Like, they've clearly dominated the handheld market, and anybody that tries to touch them is an idiot. Like, they ain't never gonna be able to touch that.
It's like, did you hear about that thing? They're saying they're gonna have like Xbox Live stuff, components on the Switch like later.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, exactly. What?
I mean, that's good for Microsoft. It's smart,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, if you want to talk to your friends on Xbox Live for some reason, you can.
Yeah.
Sure. I think it's probably also they're probably trying to get like Mixer ready for the Switch or something like that too.
Oh yeah, that would be.
Yeah, because Mixer is definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of people that I follow on Twitch switch over to Mixer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some more money from what I understand. Yeah. People like money.
Yeah, I myself am a lover of money.
I consider myself a connoisseur of money.
A connoisseur of money, that's a good one.
Yeah. I know that I like it, and I know I like to spend it.
So I endeavor to get more.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's good. Let's see.
Let's make sure we didn't miss any before we call it.
Yeah, before we wrap up.
Wrap
up. All right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anybody have any other questions to ask our boy at Bungie? Yeah, connoisseur of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. Money is nice. I like money. Money's great.
Yeah, money's great. You can do so many things with money.
You can do so many things with money.
It's like I mean, you know, as a kid, you think like, you know, like, oh man, you know,
Dude,
like $10 will get you whatever you want.
Concept of money changes even like to now, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's been studies done that people don't understand the difference between $1 million and $1 billion, just conceptually. Like,
wow.
Everybody knows it's 1,000 times more, but you don't really get how much more that is, right? Because like,
bless you.
Thank you. 1,000 is a lot more, but how much more is it? Like, so to put it in perspective, you know, with $1 million, you can spend $50,000 a day for 200 days. Is it right? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's 200. Yeah, it's something like that, right? Yeah, 200 days. Math's important, kids.
Math's important. You always do math.
Yeah, I think it's 200 days, right?
Mm.
If you're a billionaire, you can spend $50,000 a day for 50 years and still have money left over.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big difference.
That's a lot.
That's a big, big difference.
You think you could spend $50,000 a day? I don't even.
Fuck no.
I don't think I could do that.
No, and that's the thing is that so anybody that's got $1 billion can spend that much money every day for the rest of their life if they only have one of those $1 billion.
Yeah, all I need
If they
is
have
one.
more than that, you multiply that number. So if you've got $50 billion, you can spend 50 times that amount. Right? Like, that's
insane.
Yeah, you can spend millions of dollars a day essentially and be fine. Right?
It's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I just bought a small country. I'm good.
Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, think about it. If you spend $1 million a day, that's $365 million a year.
That's crazy.
You still got a lot of $1 billion left over there, right? Like, what? Yeah. So yeah, no, the concept of money, like as things get like as you get older and older, like you start realizing things. I think that's why a lot of people in our generation right now are going, why the hell do people have billions of dollars?
Yeah.
You can't spend
all of it.
You can't. This is like, what? You literally can buy countries.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. You don't need that money, man.
Yeah, I know, right? Give it to me.
Yeah, give me some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you use that $50,000 principle and just use it on student debt, that's multiple people you're probably erasing student debt from every day
Right.
for 50 years, right? Like, what? Anyways.
Let's see. Top 5 animes. Riku wants to know.
Ooh, top 5 animes. I mean, Cowboy Bebop's up there. I just finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That's up there. That's great. I love Samurai Champloo too, because I mean the music's really super good, and you know it's a lot of the same people involved with Cowboy Bebop. I feel like it gets a bit of a harsher cut.
Yeah.
Because it's not Cowboy Bebop, right?
Yeah.
It's not. Mobile Suit 08 the Mess Team. That's really fucking good. The animation quality by the end of it gets like super stellar. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like thinking of the fifth, and I'm like, well, no, it's easily JoJo's.
Easy,
Come on.
right?
Easy JoJo's.
I would say.
What is wrong with me? Why would I not put JoJo's number 1? Come on.
I would say my number 1 anime would have to be Samurai Champloo.
Yeah.
I've always loved that show. Like it's pretty much redeemed my faith in music and anime at both at the same time. Number 2 would probably be JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Gungrave, Welcome to the NHK, and Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans.
Iron Blooded Orphans is really good. Don't get me wrong, that was going to be on the list, but I think 08 MS Team is better in a lot of different ways, right? Like I think my biggest problem with Iron Blooded Orphans is the second season falls off really hard. Like that first season is really super rock solid, right? And then like halfway through the second season, they kill a specific character who's just doing normal shopping things.
Oh yeah.
And once it gets to that point, it's like everything starts to unravel. Like all this really dense narrative just kind of starts coming apart a bit.
I kind of feel like that. I mean, honestly, from my perspective, I feel like that particular killing was an apology for not killing them earlier, almost.
Yeah, and then even then, so it's like a lot of the other like plot strings just kind of start falling apart at that point, because like they just start killing a bunch of people, and sometimes it feels like it has a purpose, and sometimes it doesn't, and stuff like that. Like I think at that point they started commodifying death. Like I feel like that was that moment where it was like, oh no, did we maybe go too far?
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck it, just slam full throttle on all that crazy shit.
Yeah, it's like Tomino just came back and he's like, listen, you guys don't know what you're doing. This is what you're supposed to do, is kill everybody.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love it. I still love what they did for Gundam design. I know a lot of the Gundam fan base is very split on whether they do or don't like the Gundams in that series, but I think they're great.
Yeah.
I think every single one of them is really unique. Like, you can look at, you know, the Chimeras versus, like, the Gusion versus Barbados, and they all look different.
Yeah.
There are similarities in their structure, but they very clearly have different silhouettes, different colors, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
You know, whereas, I mean, not to rag on some of the Gundam series too much, but if you pointed out a bunch of Gundams from Gundam Seed, I couldn't probably tell you the difference. If you just put names and then pictures and not like had it all shuffled, I wouldn't be able to assign that.
I was like, oh, that looks right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, that's not Justice. That's a different one of the Gundams, and it's like, okay.
It's like the Freedom Gundam, the Justice Gundam.
They've got a bunch of frilly things on their back and spikes and stuff everywhere. Yeah, very busy design during that time.
It's like, Rika says he feels the same on Gundam.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon Ball is like a classic, of course, too. It's just like, it's hard to put that in my top 5 of all time because, man, it's really slow sometimes because they got filler episodes and stuff. And, like, you know, the people joke about, like, oh, it takes them forever to power up, but they ain't lying.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Also, my boy Trunks got jobbed for, like, what, four series?
Yeah.
He finally got his due in Super somewhere, finally.
Finally, right?
Yeah.
I heard about that. I haven't even seen Super, but I've heard good things.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard good things too. That's kind of I saw some of the Trunks stuff and I was like, they're doing them right. That's good. I'll come back when it's done and watch all of it.
Yeah, just like binge it all.
Yeah, I'll come back when it's done. I also tried watching it with the Japanese voice actors, and after watching the American voice actors for so long, they're so different. I was like, I can't. I'll wait. I'll just wait. It's fine.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Any more questions, guys? Yeah. Any more questions from our viewers? See, JoJo, Hellsing, both versions of Dragon Ball. Okay. No Game, No Life.
I mean, I also like animes that I've seen recently, like Gegege no Kitaro.
What's that?
That is so there was an old series slash manga for Gegege no Kitaro. It's like one of the classic mangas from way back when. It's about yokai and stuff. And like their kind of adventures and stuff they go on. Man, that show is dark though. I fucking love it. I love dark animes that are just don't really seem like they're gonna be dark, like Madoka.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Like
boy, this is cool. Oh, mommy, no.
Yeah. There's definitely a little bit of that in Gegege no Kitaro where it's like, yeah, this episode's like cute and happy and fun and got like some nice stuff, and then it's like, and then the next episode's about this guy taking a train to hell, and his soul being ripped apart.
Oh.
And you're like, oh. Okay. Oh, he doesn't realize he's dead, so it's even. Oh, yeah, like it's even like more. Bam. Yeah, it's good though. Good. I love it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Rising of the Shield Hero. I actually kind of like that show.
Haven't heard of that. What is that?
That's one of the new popular anime out right now. They have the manga and everything, but like they're on like episode. Actually, the new episode should come out today. Actually, episode 6 should be out today. And basically, it's about this guy. He's like, it's one of those isekai animes where like he gets teleported to another world, and it's a game world. But there are 4 heroes, and there's like the sword hero, the spear hero, the bow hero, and the shield hero. And he's a shield hero. For some reason, I don't know why, everybody in that world is just like, the shield hero. So he gets that stigma that comes along with being a shield hero. And partway through, like in the first episode, he gets accused of a pretty grave crime in their world, and everybody hates him now. And he goes from being like this dude, oh boy, I'm in a new world and having such a great time, and he's like, everybody is scum.
Oh boy, yeah, I might have to check that out. I'm trying to think of what else might have come out recently that I'm super stoked on.
I put Adam onto it, and he really liked it, so I figured you'd like it too.
Well, I mean, My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah.
It's just a really good shonen, right? Like it's just really good shonen anime. And then the big thing for me is it's the first time that I've like been part of a shonen that I've watched and I go, hey, I'm that main character. Because most of the time it's like, hey, I'm the lovable side character or something like that. Right? Like it's never the main character, but Deku is a lot of my moral values and fibers right in there. Self-sacrifice. Like he's totally willing to destroy himself physically to save others, and he's just really good person. And it's like, yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah, he's one of the more relatable main characters. Like I've always been kind of watching like an anime, like let's say like Luffy, and I'm kind of like, okay, well I want Luffy to win, but I'm not necessarily.
I'm not Luffy.
Yeah, I'm not Luffy. I'm not necessarily that invested in Luffy.
I mean, like even Hunter x Hunter. I look at Hunter x Hunter and I'm like, I'm not going. I'm Leorio, right? That's me, but I'm the side character. Like Dragon Ball, Trunks, right? Like, I'm always the side character. It's the first time it's been the first character where I'm like, yeah, that's the main character. Somebody that I can actually relate to. I understand why people like these things now, right? Like, damn. Yeah.
Like, finally, it's been so long. Oh, man. So, what about Black Clover? And also, do you like hot foods?
I can't do spicy things. I'm weak. I grew up in Louisiana, and so that kind of got like, at an early age, I was like, no. I don't want it. That being said, I can eat like spicy foods, just not like hot pepper spicy foods, right? So like if it's spiced to be hot, like a curry or something, generally okay eating that. It might not be the best thing that I'm super stoked about eating, but when it comes to peppers, those fuck me up. I can't do it. Can't do it. I haven't seen Black Clover, and I don't really know a lot about it other than it's a thing. That's it. I know it's a thing.
I know. Yeah, I also know that it's a thing. It's like my brother equates me to Goku and him to Vegeta.
Oh, that's interesting. So he's constantly envious of you, and wishes he was as good as you. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, there's some sibling dynamics like that where you kind of like look up to them in a competition-like manner.
Yeah, I like to think that my siblings look at me like that. Oh God, I wish I was just like him. He's so awesome. You know, Adam thinks that every.
Hey, Adam.
Don't tell him that. Oh man. But yeah, man, I think.
think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. You're great. Loved it, man.
It was fun. I haven't done something like this in a long time. So
yeah, man.
It's good.
Yeah, man. It was great, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody who came in, all the viewers, Riku, Penelope, Kid Wolf. Thanks to my man 90s King Rick O'Shea for hosting me. Yeah, man, like Riku says, it's really good. To be honest, it's about a main character that doesn't use magic in a world of magic users.
Oh, Black Clover? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
But yeah, and I always look up to him, so yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
Alright, so,
yeah,
man.
Thanks, guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming on the show, bro. Like I like to say, man, just remember, everybody, no matter what happens after the stream, you'll be okay, because I'll be back with another amazing experience later on. We haven't necessarily got our next interview guest up yet, but I'm sure we will. I'm gonna shovel around, you know, the people, like, get my secretary involved with their secretary, you know, we'll get them talking, we'll see who we got scheduled for next week. But yeah, like, once again, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out to view it, for showing up and showing out, as you guys are prone to do. And you have anything you want to say before we sign off, Uriah?
Play Apex Legends. It's really good. Obviously, play Destiny if you're a big Destiny fan, because then you're playing my stuff. Yeah, you know, support your game developers. Definitely, they're people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always just want to do good. That's it.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the best way to support your game developers?
I mean, definitely, like. As much as I hate saying it, microtransactions are generally a bigger portion goes to the studio than the box game purchase. It's kind of weird that way. That's a thing. But I mean, just being active, right? Like, if you can't use obviously money, just active. Like, be on Reddit, be on Twitter. Just try to support. Help try to keep the conversation positive too. Because I mean, not saying like totally fan brigade us or something like that. Definitely call us whenever we need criticism. But you know, if somebody's being like jumps in a thread and is like, yo, Destiny sucks, and be like, yeah, that's not needed here, bro. Right? Like, hey,
right.
Nobody asking about that. You know, they support your developers that way. What an amazing guest.
Yeah, what an amazing guest. There you go. Oh, man. So, once again, thank you, Uriah. Thank you, everyone, for viewing, and I will be back tomorrow for another amazing experience. Actually, I might be on tonight to stream some more Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the Gold Country Torna. But until then, you guys have a great morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you happen to be watching this, and I'll catch you on the next amazing experience.